drugs, money, and automobiles.
Your time's
so
up.
You got to get your facts straight.
All right, let's move on to education. We have a question here about appointing of school board members. The fact that, first of all, how you would go about selecting school board members, but more importantly, through that process to help build a better relationship with the school district. And we'll start back here with you, Mr. Councilman.
I think the school board members should be elected so they would have strict accountability to the people. But since that's not the case, and since we don't have the ability to make it the case, I think the question that you asked is a very relevant one. And one of the things is the basic criteria is that, first of all, the person that we put on the school board has to have as its primary objective is the success of students, period. The success of students. That has to be the primary objective. How do you vet that? You don't vet it just by seeing how much PhDs they have against their name, because that doesn't always mean that. Sometimes you go to school and get dumber the longer you're there, okay? And so, but what you do have to do is that you have to screen them. Like we have a People's Assembly in Ward 2. So the people come together once every 3 or 4 months. They can meet, they can talk. Also, the councilman must be involved in terms of help vetting the people that you put on the school board. Be as clear and as certain as you can, and then get people and put them on the school board. That's what we would do.
Okay. Mr. Lee?
You know, I think it's important to say that one of the most important jobs that we have to do as mayor, of course, is appointing qualified members to the school board, people with a vested interest. But we also have to make sure that they also bring a core competence to the table. Maybe their core competence is personnel, or maybe it's buildings. But we also have to have community representatives that have a special connection with the folks throughout Jackson who are sending their kids, into the school district. The issue is, though, it's not enough that we appoint school board members anymore. Urban communities all over the country have realized that cities have to also take on the additional role of advocate. We do have some serious issues in the family unit, and we've got some serious issues with the state's ability to support our public schools. We have to advocate to grandmama and auntie and mama and daddy to make sure that our kids are getting what they need, but at the same time, we've got to be building a case at the state, making sure that we understand that programs like kindergarten must be mandatory, because we can pay to send them to school on this end, or
Attorney Quinn, would you like to?
Yes, I would. Thank you. In addition to all of those, things that we need to do that have been mentioned here, I think the primary thing we need to do in terms of teaching our children is to show our children some love. I think that they respond better when they know that their teachers are just genuinely concerned about them. It makes all the difference in the world. It made the difference for me, quite frankly. In addition to that, if we were to go over to Barr Elementary School and just take some notes as to what that superintendent and those teachers did at Barr, to take a school in the hood where the level of that school's performance was at a level 2 or so, and increase it to a level 5 with no additional funding. So we need to understand what works. If we understand what works, we can duplicate that. I have an 8-year-old son that's in the Jackson public school system. So the urgency is now for me. I want my child to get a top-notch education.
Thank you.
This public education
Mr.
system here in Jackson.
Yeah, thank you very kindly. You know, when I was in school, I used to sit on the front and I put my hand up like that. It looked like I'm sitting back. I had to put my hand like this, because every time it looked like I'm not getting back, But anyway, y'all got it going on, okay? But anyway, what I intend to say is that we have 5 universities and colleges here in this city: Tougaloo, Jackson State, starts to say Alcorn, Tim is not here. And we also have Mississippi College, Millsap, Belhaven. And why not use some of these professional people to help us out? We don't know everything. Here people come up here, they know everything. You need folks to come to the table to help you out, to do things like this. Now, I just found out year before last one, that we had the School Board Association here in Jackson that help you, teach you how to pick good members of the school board. How to pick good members of the school board. We have never utilized that to my knowledge. But I know I will, because I don't know everything, neither do the other folks. But the fact is this: we use those people who can help us make the right decisions.
Thank you, Mr. Councilman.
Yeah, I've had a chance to talk with the superintendent. I'm the chair of the City Council's school or education committee, the pedagogy of the teaching nowadays needs to be re-examined. And these are some of the things that both him and I agree upon. The pedagogy, the style, the methodology of teaching is obsolete in many instances. So we have to take a look at that.
Okay, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I appreciate it. I hope that you would give every candidate a chance to answer a question before you go to the next candidate.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
But I agree that we need to get into the school system, and that's why the city of Jackson has adopted Poindexter Elementary School. That's why through departments working with the city of Jackson, with Poindexter, the reading level in that school has soared over the last 4 or 5 years because of us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Time is up.
One other thing, too, in terms of being an advocate for
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Your time's up.
Education, be an advocate for public education, not an advocate for charter schools.
We're going to go to Ms. Quinn for the next question. This is another Facebook question. So many people travel into Jackson to work, complain about the city, then take dollars from Jackson to surrounding counties. How do you feel about developing toll roads to increase the cash flow into the city to help with fixing roads and providing jobs?
I would be all for it. The trick is in the details of getting it done. It would be very difficult, I believe, to do that. But there are alternatives to getting funds from people that don't actually live in the city of Jackson to help with the roads and the infrastructure and the other things that they take full advantage of when they come into our city to work. And it gets back to those basic issues. But the things that we could do is this. We have right now on the books the local option sales tax that we have not taken to a referendum for a vote, voted up or down. Let the people of Jackson decide whether or not that is worth it to them to add 1 cent, 1% for the sales tax. So goods and services that are purchased within the city, we can get that and help with the water and sewer issues within the city of Jackson. In addition to that, what we need to do is to deal with, go to the legislature and try to get this pilot, this payment in lieu of taxes. A number of our buildings within the city of Jackson are tax exempt because they're state-owned buildings, even federal-owned buildings.
Your time's up, Ms. Quinn.
Organizations.
Let's go to Councilman Lumumba, please.
We don't know what we can do until we ask. And we don't know what we can do until we organize. We don't know what we can do until we bring together our own legislators in our own city and talk to them about what can be done, and then try to unite other legislators in surrounding bedroom communities. If we took that approach, that there's something we can't get done, which had to do with income into the city, and something has to happen, whether it's a commuter tag or commuter tax or commuter sticker or something. If we took that approach, if we would have taken that when we were trying to get the Scott sisters out of jail, then they would still be in prison, right? And we had to deal with the same people in order to get them out of prison. And we came to the same place where we talked to the students at the law school here to get us some help. And so the point is that the challenge is that, first of all, you have to identify the problem, request a resolution to the problem, and then try to organize to solve the problem.
Mr. Brunson.
Thank you very much. You know, someone made a statement about the bill that the legislature passed for the city for the 1 cent sales tax, which, I'm for that, but I'm not for the committee they have on that. People from Bahia, Mississippi, from Gulfport, and Starksville, we're going to determine how we spend that 1 cent sales tax that we put on our citizens here. That's not fair. What they're saying, you all don't have sense enough to know how to spend your money in Jackson, so we're going to help you. That's not fair. I wouldn't offer to the citizens of Jackson for them to have that bill with that committee on that. Now, one other thing that you talk about your
Let's go to the mayor.
Well, let me just pick up where Mr. Blunton left off. I agree with him. I agree that we have to be very careful as to how we take this measure to voters in terms of them taxing themselves. It has to be 60% of the vote, and we have to remove that commission. People who think otherwise have not examined the reality of being the capital city, being the trunk of the tree, and they need to examine that reality. We have been talking to political leadership. We've been talking to people throughout the community. What I'm told is that commission must go. In fact, the city council has passed unanimous resolutions in support of getting rid of that commission, unanimous resolutions for the last 2 years. So I'm talking with the people in the community. That commission must go before we tax ourselves here in the city of Jackson.
again, in terms of a couple of things. Number one, the local option sales tax. As stated before, let the people decide. If it's a 60% vote that's required, let the people decide. If it's 60% vote for it, we can go forward with it. The issue that we have with our water and sewer problem, that's now at a point where the EPA had to come in and sanction the city to the tune of about $300,000 or so, and then to have to pay $400 million before we can get our infrastructure in place. And that was $1 billion problem. I would say this also, in terms of a toll road, I'm the best person that will have the opportunity to go to the legislature to get the legislature to put a toll road for the city of Jackson. I've done that when I worked at Jackson State and got the Mississippi Veterans Memorial Stadium for Jackson State University. I think I'm in the best position to get that done because I have the relationship to get it done.
Mr. Lee.
I think it goes back to the point that we have to have the kind of leadership that works well with others. If we're going to have a toll road, then we've got to have a good relationship with the state. If we're going to have to get a commission removed, then we're going to have a good relationship with the state. We've been trying for 4 years. Now, the problem that I have with the commission is it is a fact of principle. It is a matter of principle. But I don't think citizens are prepared to pay exorbitant water bills over principles. You can be right or you can be happy. And I think folks are happier with lower bills.
Time's up.
Let's stay along this train of thought then. One of the questions that we got, Jackson gets little help from the legislature, yet the state uses our streets and our water and our resources. What can you do to get more cooperation from state leaders to help repair the capital city? And Mr. Blunson, you'll start.
Thank you for that question. You know, when we had that water problem where the member of the legislature had to go out and use the porta-johns, we got $6 million from them. But you know, they asked us to fix that problem they had in the legislature first, but we're going to have to pay it back, the city of Jackson. You know, that's not fair. That's not fair. And you know, and I think that we ought to have a good relationship with the legislature, but they ought to have a good relationship with us in the city of Jackson, too. You know, they live here 4 or 5 months out of the year. This is home for them. And, you know, they should want better streets. They should want a better sewage. They should want all these kinds of things. So why can't they, you know, do the right thing for us? And I would go up there and tell them, you know, I would go up there and tell them, if you're going to live here half of the time, here, thank you. If you're going to live in here half of the time, and then you're going to have to help us survive here in the city of Jackson by helping us in the legislature.
Attorney Quinn?
I think in order to state that case to the legislature, you're going to have someone who's in the best position to state that case. When I negotiated the deal for Jackson State, it was not favorably viewed upon initially, but I had to redirect the conversation. It was not just about what was going to happen for Jackson State University, but what was going to happen for the University of Mississippi Medical Center and the state of Mississippi. So we did that. We were able to do that. And the same type of information and conversation needs to be had with our state legislature. But in addition to that, you need a person that has also the right temperament in order to do it. And I do. I have that. When we go to the legislature, we have to understand also we have to do our part. It's not just to go there and say, give me X number of dollars. We have to go there with a plan, with the understanding that we're going to execute the plan and execute it timely.
Thank you, Councilman Lumumba.
When we negotiated the release of the Scott sisters, we also had the right temperament to do it, right? The reality is this. In order to win those kind of victories and establish those kinds of relationships, you have to work at it. You got to cultivate a relationship, and you have to develop a narrative over a period of time. You don't just walk in the door and expect them to agree with you all the time. You have to, first of all, establish a narrative. And if your narrative is close to the truth, then they will begin to listen to it. And if legislators happen to be there today who don't agree with it, then the legislators that come in tomorrow will agree with it. But you have to organize. You no more fall in unity than you just fall in love. Unity is developed, love is developed. And so what we have to do is make sure we work it and we continue to organize, and we will wind up where we want to be.
Mr. Mayor?
You know, I've walked the halls and halls of the legislature to represent the interests of the citizens of Jackson, and we've been successful in that regard. Haven't walked as a high-paid lawyer, walked as a public servant to make sure that the kinds of things that are needed here in the city of Jackson are obtained. We made sure that we had some money to correct our water and sewer problem. Just this last legislative session, we received $3 million to repair the bridge coming across Mill Street in the railroad. That took some negotiations. It took some approaching the leadership. Met with the Speaker of the House at City Hall, the first time that has occurred. Met with the Lieutenant Governor, met with the Chairman of Ways and Means. And so to put out the air or the impression that somehow we're not in the legislature, we're not doing what we need to do is erroneous. It's misleading. It's deceptive. And so we want to continue to make that. And I agree, it does take time to forge these relationships. And I've been working on this for quite some time to make sure that we move in the right direction, that we move toward making sure that the legislature knows that Jackson is the trunk of the tree.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
If the trunk of the tree
Mr.
dies,
Lee?
the branches are going to die as well.
I think once again, it's a matter of drawing the difference between leadership and drawing a narrative. The bottom line is we've got to go in there and we've got to make the case for the city of Jackson. This is the capital city. And it's not enough that we're the capital city. We've also got allies that we can count on, the businesses here, the communities here. We ought to be taking them with us. This is a community solution, a community opportunity to go and make the case for Jackson. We've got to make sure our legislators connect. And when they give us something, we've got to take those opportunities and use them. The $6 million that Mr. Blunson brought up has not been pulled down. I believe Congressman Thompson has won over $35 million of federal funds for us that have not been pulled down. You know, we have to be good stewards with the opportunities we have, or it's just like asking for seconds. You know, you're not going to get them if you haven't eaten what's already on your plate.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Mr. Lumumba?
Even though a lot of other political officials and a lot of legislators stood up to help the Scott sisters, I didn't see the mayor there in line. So he might be surprised to know that there was no high-payer lawyer getting them out of jail. The Scott sisters was free job. It was pro bono. We actually invested $10,000 into getting them out of jail. Right.
This next question goes to Jonathan Lee. This is another Facebook question. In South Jackson, the streets are not passable after or during a bad rainstorm. What do you plan to do to correct the situation?
Well, you know, it gets back to having a routine maintenance program for drainage, ditches, and creeks. And I'm sure the mayor's going to say that we already have one, but like you, I haven't seen it either. So we've got to make sure that we put those kinds of things in place, and then we've got to prioritize our spending in such a manner that we are sitting that money into a fund where we can't write checks out of it except for its intended purpose. The idea is we have money in the budget to do certain things, but you know, time after time we start moving money around, and sometimes the rubber doesn't meet the road. You as citizens pay your taxes and you pay for exorbitant fees. It's very, very, very important that we are being good stewards of what we have, and that we are not being in a reactive nature but a proactive nature.
Mr. Mayor.
You know, I'm not going to say what Mr. Lee accused me of saying. What I'm going to say is try to correct him, because he loves to spout out numbers. He loves to talk about relationships. He's talked about the sheriff saving $1 million or raising $1 million. How so? He talks about Congressman Thompson allocating $35 million to the city of Jackson. How so? Look behind those numbers. Look behind that talk, because this young man is very, very deceptive, and he can make the numbers sound good, but are they good? Where would I turn down $35 million? Please. That absolutely is not the case. He says that we haven't drawn down any money on the $6 million. We just broke ground for $3.9 million on a water tank on Mill Street. We're spending $1 million on Capitol Street out of that $6 million. Listen to what is being said.
Mr. Blinson, we'll go to you. We'll go to you after that, Mr. Lee. You're first. You're first.
Oh, okay.
You're first. Yes.
You know, everybody been watching my hand go up, and I've been passed. You know,
we got you.
I don't know what's going on, but anyway.
No, you're first.
I'm gonna check the time at the end of this debate, okay? I think I heard the mayor make a statement early on that the speaker of the House had come to his office, and somebody else had come the first time in history. But you know, the speaker didn't give us that finance department here in the city of Jackson. We had that landmark building it's empty now, and we could have all them folks there. But he walked out of the mayor's office and went on and gave it to himself down in Clinton. You know. But what we need to get the speaker in the House, but let him do something for the city of Jackson, and that's the bottom line. Thank you.
Mr. Lee, you want to respond?
You know, I don't think that I'm being deceptive at all. In fact, it's not necessarily what the mayor has done that's the problem with the voters here in Jackson. It's what the mayor hasn't done. You know, of course, we are pulling down money, and there are ongoing projects, and I'm very proud of those. With all due respect, I am. But what I'm saying is we can do better, and we have not been good stewards of what we have. And yes, over the course of the last 12 years of your administration, there have been missed opportunities that we have not taken account of. And I think the voters see through it. At the end of the day, we are all driving around on these streets. We're all seeing these water problems in our homes. The fact is that we've got some serious infrastructure issues here. And a patch is not going to solve the problem. It's going to take a spirit of collaboration and working with the legislature and the federal government to get it done.
Mr. Lumumba.
Mr. Thompson, Congressman Thompson is the one that has made that representation about the mayor leaving the money on the table. Now, whether he did or not, I don't know. But I know that some of the mayor's decisions in regards of use of money and getting money have been improved. When we had the water crisis in Jackson, I called the mayor and I said, look, you've declared a crisis. The state is going to declare a crisis. Let's ask Benny to ask the president to declare a crisis. Ask them for $300 million, not just for dropping the bucket. The mayor said, we got it. We can handle it internally. And so that was a bad decision. I don't know why it was made. I don't know why he did that. But to me, once I'm in office, you better believe it. I'm going to ask Congressman Thompson for the $300 million every time. Right.
Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, I didn't do it because I understand government. There's not $300 million out there. I mean, this just demonstrates that he's telling you what you want to hear. There's no way that $300 million is going to be allocated to the city of Jackson. And by the way, that earmark, the allocation earmark, is gone. You can't do that allocation anymore. And I don't recall a conversation with Councilman Lumumba saying that I have it. I don't recall that conversation at all. So sometimes the figment of people's imagination takes control of the conversation when it's to their benefit.
Your time's up.
Okay. Let's move on to the next question before the closing remarks. And this we'll start with the mayor on this. What steps, as mayor, will you take to rebuild the city's tax base and to help stop either the reality or the perception of too many businesses leaving the city?
Well, first of all, I think we need to work to make Jackson a destination city. We've come a long way in that regard with the convention center complex. We need a convention center hotel. Just today, the city council approved a deal that we've been working on for 15 months to wrestle that land away from TCI to make sure that we can have a convention center hotel across the street. But that's not enough. We need to make sure that public safety is the order of the day here in the city of Jackson. We need to continue to fight crime, and I won't rest until people feel safe here in the city of Jackson. We need to make sure that our neighborhoods are attractive. That's why we have the neighborhood ride-along program where we put neighborhood leaders on a bus with city workers to look at their neighborhoods through their eyes to determine what kind of problems and concerns that they have that we can address. We need to make sure that we continue with our artistic and cultural venues, making sure that there are places for people to be entertained, to go, to perform. Those are the kinds of things that need to happen. We need to become a destination city, take advantage of our geographical location,
Your
our
time's up, Mr. Mayor.
and all
Thank
other
you.
routes that
Councilman
we have.
We need to focus in on reorientating our urban renewal policy. Our urban renewal should be spread to like the Highway 18s and the Mega Everest boulevards. We need to develop boulevards out in the community where now we can have outlet malls and things of that nature, which are contemporary with what develops in the United States at this point in time in history. Metro centers don't have big box stores anywhere in the country anymore. So we have to do that. And then secondly, what we need to do is we have to be aggressive with our marketing campaign. We can't wait for business to come. We got to go get business. With the Metro Center, we need to turn it into an educational institution. Let's check out Hinds County Community College or someone else, some institutional-based group like we've done with the medical mall, who can then help develop the medical center. So this is what we have to do. This will help stop people from leaving Jackson. The people that's leaving Jackson are leaving Jackson out in the areas where we need to be declaring the urban renewal areas so we can easily develop those areas.
Thank you. Councilman Blunson.
All right. Thank you. We talk about our tax base. We know old Sam leaving us. Sears already been gone. Home Depot down in South Jackson, it's vacant, been vacant for quite some time. Puckett spilling over in another place. All those places are really taxes that we could have, but they're leaving us. My thing is this. We talk about the convention center building. We need a hotel there at the convention center. But where are they going when they get through with their meetings? Where are they going? Going to Vicksburg, out there on the reservoir? Look, whoever's on Fair Street, supposed to be doing Fair Street, they're going to have it going for 6 months, either they're going to be gone. Look, we will not have a delay on Fair Street anymore when I become mayor. Because we're gonna move on that, because it's already been declared a resort area. Now, you know people gonna come there, something for a resort area, 24/7, and we're gonna get it done.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lee?
You know, I think we've got to concentrate on our assets, and our existing businesses are assets. We're going to divide the city into territories, and we're going to have employees that are calling on businesses every day. You know, dropping by, here's my card. You got a problem, call me. You need a permit, I'm going to walk you through the process. Thinking about leaving Jackson, call me first, because I want to make sure you end up here. But it's more than that. We've also got to realize the assets we have to attract businesses from the outside. We've got this thriving medical corridor. We've got 5 universities and over 40,000 college students. And we've got this urban atmosphere. That means we've got to spend our money in such a way that we're lifting these things up. You know, sidewalks are economic development tools. A high-functioning public transportation system, also an economic development tool. And then what's left is we've got to tie it all up in a neat little bow. We've got to be proactive and knock on doors. Showing up in Vegas once a year for a trade show is not economic development.
Thank you. Attorney Quinn?
Yes. In addition to those many things, we need to make sure we stop the bleeding. Again, there's an exodus of businesses leaving the city. We know who they are. And the thing about it is this, too. I like to use a football analogy because I love sports. We have to make the cut before the ball is thrown. We lost an opportunity. They're over in Pearl right now. We had an opportunity for that business to be here in Jackson. And what happens from that is there's a reason that car dealerships line up beside each other. It draws traffic. That's what's happening now over in Pearl. Pearl went from having the Trustmark Park to having a Bass Pro Shop, and now the outlet mall. The growth there, the economic growth there has been stimulated. But in terms of what we need to do here, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. JSU has the highest number of STEM students than any other discipline.
Thank you, Attorney Quinn. Mr. Mayor?
We can deal with that.
We need to make sure that people recognize that we've had over $900 million worth of development in the city of Jackson, investments in the city of Jackson since 2009. Look at the I-55 corridor. Look at where Kmart Superstore used to be. We now have Comcast there. We now have CarMax there. Down the street, we have JD Bywriters. Across the street, we have Phil Moore, GMC. We now have the Virginia University,
where
the old Brooks's used to be. We have
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Your time is up, sir.
We're going to give each of you 1 minute to answer one question that came through one of our emails through WAPT. I am a voter that feels none of the candidates stand out enough to pick one to vote for. Give me 3 past accomplishments in and for the community that would sway me that he, she is the person for the job. Each of you will get 1 minute. We'll start with you.
Okay. When Henry Kersey uncovered the fact that the foul play had taken place during the original Medgar Evers trial, none of the other candidates but I and other people who helped me organize the group that forced the district attorney of Hinds County to prosecute the killer of Medgar Evers. When the situation occurred with the Katrina, and thousands of people lost their lives. And we had problems in Jackson and problems throughout the Gulf Coast. We organized tons of material aid to bring them to Jackson and to bring them to other places where people needed that material aid, and organize people. When the Ku Klux Klan threatened to march here in 1990,